Hey everyone, I'm Mark, and welcome to the very first episode of Why Buildings Matter, a shortcast series brought to you by the Architecture Hypothesis podcast. This series is designed to be short and digestible, something you can listen to during your free time, at the end of the day, on a train, a bus, or whenever you feel like diving into thought-provoking discussions about architecture. Each episode will explore a key architectural concept and discuss a fascinating book on architectural theory or criticism. So, let's get started. Let's start with something fundamental: dwelling. It sounds simple, right? But in reality, it's a deeply philosophical and social concept that has intrigued some of the greatest thinkers of all time. Philosophers like Martin Heidegger and Gaston Bachelard spent years contemplating what it truly means to dwell, and their ideas have had a significant influence on modern architectural theory. Heidegger, in his famous essay, Building Dwelling Thinking, argued that humans can only truly build once they understand how to dwell. To him, dwelling wasn't just about occupying physical space. It was about existing in harmony with nature, land, and time. His imagery of a modest cabin in the Black Forest became an architectural symbol of this deep connection between humans and the natural world. On the other hand, Gaston Bachelard, in his book The Poetics of Space, approached the idea from a psychological perspective. He saw living spaces as vessels of memory and emotion, integral parts of shaping personal identity. He explored how small corners of a home, basements, and attics in poetry and personal memories reflect our deep attachment to space. But here's the catch. As architectural researcher Federico de Matteis pointed out, both of these perspectives are rather romanticized and subjective. Heidegger's idea of dwelling was shaped by his isolated natural surroundings, while Bachelard's analysis was based on an idealized middle-class French home in the 20th century. Their theories, while thought-provoking, don't necessarily apply to the diverse and complex realities of urban living today. And that's the big question. How do we define dwelling in an era of rapid urbanization and globalization? Modern thinkers like Deleuze and Guattari offer an alternative view with their concept of smooth and striated spaces. They argue that living spaces are not always fixed entities, but dynamic and ever-changing under the influence of human movement and cultural flows. This perspective makes more sense when we consider informal settlements, refugee camps, slums, places where living spaces are not carefully designed, but rather formed out of immediate necessity. Another contemporary philosopher, Peter Sloterdijk, presents an even broader theory: his social bubbles concept. He suggests that living spaces aren't just shelters, but also social environments. In this view, architecture is not just about building physical structures, but about creating spaces that foster community and belonging. And that brings us to an important shift in the way we think about the home. In the mid-20th century, before computers were widespread, the house was considered the ultimate symbol of modern architecture. Architectural historian Peter Collins, in his book Changing Ideals in Modern Architecture, emphasized that the private home was a result of modernization, particularly the rise of the middle class after the Industrial Revolution. Homes weren't just places of residence, they were tools for understanding social change. But fast forward to today, and things have shifted dramatically. With the rise of digital technology, the home has lost its central role in architectural discourse. Instead, topics like mass customization of building components and new material explorations dominate the field. As architectural theorist Mario Carpo notes, digital tools have changed the way we draw and design, leading to a growing abstraction and dematerialization of space. Homes, once tangible and clearly defined structures, are now increasingly blurred concepts where the boundaries between physical and virtual reality are harder to distinguish. And then, of course, came the COVID-19 pandemic. With remote work and social distancing, our homes transformed into multifunctional spaces, offices, classrooms, entertainment hubs. The merging of digital technology with domestic life created a new reality where home isn't just a place of retreat anymore. It's a complex, layered, and hyper-connected entity. We no longer just live in our homes. We work, learn, and socialize from them. But is this a good thing? Heidegger once questioned the true essence of dwelling in his lecture, Bauen, Wohnen, Denken. To him, dwelling wasn't just about having a roof over our heads, but about feeling connected to space and the world around us. So in this age of digital integration, can we still feel that sense of connection, or have our homes become technological bubbles where all our needs are met through screens and smart devices? The answer, perhaps, lies in balance. Technology undoubtedly brings convenience, but it also raises challenges. For example, the rise of smart homes and automation makes life easier, but also sparks concerns about privacy and data security. As researchers Sotirios Kotsopoulos and Jason Nawin argue, designing living spaces should not distort human behavior. Instead, architecture should support and enhance meaningful living. At the end of the day, the home remains an essential part of human existence. No matter how much technology transforms our way of life, our need for a warm, safe, and meaningful living space will always remain. So here's a question for you. Does your home still feel like a place where you truly dwell? That was a deep dive into the concept of dwelling. Now let's shift gears and talk about a fascinating book on modern architecture, Living Complex: From Zombie City to the New Communal, written by Nicholas Mack. This book raises an urgent question. How do we accommodate 1 billion new housing units globally as populations rise and urbanization accelerates? Mack starts by criticizing traditional housing models, especially suburban single-family homes, which he sees as symbols of social isolation. Instead, he explores innovative housing experiments, such as House NA by Sue Fujimoto and Moriyama House by Ryu Nishizawa, which break conventional boundaries of privacy and communal living. However, these projects come with their own limitations. House NA, for example, with its 21 tiny platforms and transparent glass walls, is bold but lacks privacy and practicality for everyday life. Moriyama House, while fostering a sense of community, raises issues of mobility and potential intrusion. One crucial point in Mack's analysis is his tendency to overlook the political and economic context of these projects. Take Japan, for example. House NA and Moriyama House were built in a country where the construction industry follows a scrap-and-build approach, prioritizing new developments over renovations, leading to massive resource waste. As a result, such projects remain experimental rather than scalable solutions. Meanwhile, in Germany, Mack introduces cooperative housing models like AR50 co-housing, where architects and residents collaborate to create sustainable, community-driven living spaces. These initiatives, while not perfect, offer more viable alternatives to mass-produced housing. However, Mack's greatest weakness lies in the gap between his visionary ideas and actionable solutions. He is fascinated by iconic projects, but does not fully address the realities of implementing large-scale change. The challenge of housing a growing global population requires more than experimental designs. It calls for a balance between innovative thinking, progressive policies, and a deep understanding of local conditions. So that wraps up today's discussion. We explored the philosophical dimensions of dwelling and examined Nicholas Mack's critique of contemporary housing models in Living Complex. One thing is clear: the way we live is constantly evolving. Whether we talk about Heidegger's romanticized idea of dwelling, Bachelard's psychological take on space, or contemporary digital transformations, one fundamental question remains: what makes a place truly feel like home? It's a question worth pondering as architecture continues to shape the way we live, work, and interact. If you enjoyed today's episode of Why Buildings Matter, Consider supporting us by buying a coffee. Links to Ko-fi and PayPal are in the description. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any upcoming episodes. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode of Why Buildings Matter.